My wife and I put a lot of value in the Myers-Briggs personality typing. We are both proud to be more on the thinking scale than the feeling scale. So she was surprised and facetiously disappointed to discover that maybe I am more of a feeler than we had thought. She was slightly facetiously disappointed. Not sure she would have married me had she known. Well, here's how I revealed myself to be a feeler. We had come to the end of one of those screamer arguments that scares the children. And in the mutual exhaustion that follows, I observed that in the midst of our mutual anger, I am able to identify a space in my mind that I know to be a space of love, admiration, and gratitude. And when I move from the anger into that space, I feel much better. Her ears perked up and she said, "Oh my God, you are a feeler, not a thinker. You bamboozled me into marrying you." That's the Latvian Women's Chorus. We have speculated about the feeling-thinking pole in Myers-Briggs by suggesting that kids who grow up in dangerous families do not dare to dwell in a feeling state if that is their natural state. I told you before that I was abandoned on the side of a dirt road in the Andes Mountains. I was taunted and laughed at by schoolmates because I let a retarded girl sit next to me on the bus. And one time in Venezuela, I was standing neck deep in the entrance to a lagoon, and I asked my family that stood on the sand above me, "Could there be alligators in here?" And they all laughed and said, "Absolutely." They laughed, and I was threatened by danger I could not see. Now, I have told you that coming home from first grade, just a minute, I gotta turn something off here. There we go. Okay, so I've told you that coming home from first grade, my wife collected a large bouquet of Scotch broom, which got her home late, which frightened her mother, which resulted in a whipping with an electrical cord, and she has more such examples. So we have speculated that a child might learn to turn off feelings in a threatening family environment. Now, recently, even as an adult, I have seen that letting my feelings govern me has resulted in me looking like a fool. And so I have resolved to stuff and deny the feelings that caused that. So to be clear, the thinking-feeling pole in Myers-Briggs is not about feelings, but is more about how one makes decisions. But our speculation is still worth thinking about. If a child learns to shut off feelings, would it not follow that their decision-making would be more in the domain of thinking than in feeling? So as I sit here in my hot tub listening to the Latvian Women's Chorus, I relish the feeling. I relish the feeling part of me. A fond memory I have is of a time when I was in a very spiritual mind and I sat in the dark and I listened to the native choir, Paraguayan, I think, native choir sing Ave Maria from the soundtrack of the movie The Mission. In that spiritual frame of mind, I visualized Mary receiving to her feeling, healing heart all the tormented, abused, and tortured children of the whole world. And I saw her grow in stature and fury as she took in all that torment and torture. I cried. I like to cry. I don't do it very often unless I've recently had surgery. That seems to make me emotionally vulnerable. But I had a strange experience about crying. One morning after my ex-wife had taken the kids and moved 600 miles away, I was standing and looking out the window when the school bus turned the corner and came up our street. It came to me that my little boy would never, ever get on that school bus again. I cried and cried. And yet, some part of me, which I have labeled the observer's self, watched me cry, which added to my grief. Why can't I cry with single-mindedness, with purity of heart? Why must there be some part of me watching and observing me crying? I have a proposal for you. If these things I say as the hot tub curmudgeon make you think of your own experiences, well, record your thoughts with your iPhone and send them to me, and I'll try to include them in the playlist.